Hello, Katrin. Thank you very much
Hi.
for coming on to the Bhairav Show. And hello, everyone. I have Katrin Freihofner with me, who's the co-founder of Straion and ex-Dynatrace, ex-Elastic. She has tons of experience in the world of product management, now leading a company in the world of product again. So welcome to the show, Katrin. And
Thank you so much.
Sure. And you have worked across a lot of different departments such as UX, design, design systems, team leadership, right? So can you tell me about your overall journey, all the way from your first company to founding Strayon?
So my overall journey, no matter the role, I guess, is always about deeply understanding the problem we're working on. And it all ended up in product management, and I guess that makes all sense now. It didn't at the time, I have to admit. So when I worked in UX, but also when I worked in software development and working with teams, hiring, developing teams, I felt very at home. I felt like I could learn a lot, I could contribute a lot, and it all then came together working in product management at Elastic. And that is also a big thing why I took in the end the step to co-found my own company. It's being deeply passionate about a specific problem. And a problem to me never exists in isolation. It's the complexity that makes it very interesting for me. The real world of software engineering, that's at least the space we with Straion are in, and I was in with Dynatrace and Elastic as well. My users and how they approach a problem or how they solve it right now, because it's usually that they have a million of to-dos, managing multiple tools or now multiple agents or tools and integrations, and everything runs in parallel. And maybe to give a very specific example, at Dynatrace and Elastic, I have been working on different parts of an observability solution. It's not a product you're using maybe while waiting for the bus and scrolling. It is one that wake you up at 3 a.m. in the morning and your production environment is down. Your users can't access your product. So no matter if I'm in the UX person or the product or the engineer working on that, my job is to avoid false positives, to not wake up this person at 3 a.m. for nothing, but to make sure they have the important information, to make sure I can help them understand what they need to act on, what's the impact of this problem, and what they can do about it, and nothing else. That's also important, nothing else. No
All
clutter.
all right. And what made you move from your previous Elastic role to founding a company in itself? Right? What was that motivation factor?
To me, there are a couple of things to it. One was definitely just the opportunity. It's not something that I have on my table every day that two former colleagues and great software engineers want to co-found a company with me. So the sheer opportunity was already intriguing, of course. And then having this direct impact, I loved working at Elastic. It's a great company, amazing people, great products. But at a company this large, at an organization this large, you don't feel the impact of your day-to-day work as much as I do right now, as we are just five folks trying
Hmm.
to get a company off the ground.
Nice, interesting. And how do you explain your new company, Strayon, in simple terms? Let's say who has never heard of it.
Straion makes sure that your AI coding assistant follows your company's software engineering standards.
Hmm.
You could think of Straion also as a governance layer for AI-powered software development. So it ensures that the code could be written by AI or also by a human is adhering to your rules, your architecture standards, your security best practices, and so forth.
Okay. And so your general ICP is a software developer per se. Is that correct?
Yes, yes. Especially mid-sized and large software development
Hmm.
teams. So it's a problem that usually comes up in in mid-sized to large teams where they already have some engineering standards, where they have some best practices in place, and they are rolling out AI coding assistants or have already done so.
All right. And probably now coming on to the generic stream of product management. So where do you
Mhm.
think AI genuinely helps product managers today?
I would say there are so many aspects, and I would also say it highly depends on what your focus is. There are so many different kinds of product managers out there, especially now with AI, I would guess. Um, for me personally, something where it has been super helpful and that might be specific to startups or more specific to startups than to larger companies is everything around research. So I do a lot of competitive research, a lot of market research with AI. It's at least a first step in my research and helps me then analyze data, summarize it, and knowing where to focus on or where to dive deeper.
Mm,
This has been, yeah, it's amazing also in the sense of how much time it saves me and that I can do it on a much more regular basis compared to what I have done without it, right?
mm,
Because it's so easy and so fast and so accessible to me. I can run this analysis about a competition, for example, very frequently, and
mm,
this is extremely helpful, especially with the whole AI tooling
mm,
moving so extremely fast.
mm. And with you mentioned about it, the fact that it saves you a lot of time, right? Does
Mhm.
that mean that your competitor analysis becomes even more rigorous now and more often compared to so-called non-AI native days?
Yes, yes, I would say so. I guess it depends on who your competition is and how much they build into in the open is what I
Mhm,
wanted to say.
mhm,
Like how much you can even access, how much information you can even get. But for me, it's extremely helpful, and I run this on a regular basis, just to see what's out there, and what is who is evolving into our space,
mm.
and who is moving out of it again, and so on. Yeah.
All right. And with respect to AI, does it help the product teams understand their user base better, or does it also create the risk of making teams more detached from real users, given the fact that AI comes up with its own, sometimes hallucinated cases?
Yeah. Um, I think, yeah, from my perspective, it absolutely helps understanding patterns, understanding, analyzing errors, or understanding the metrics you're collecting,
Mm,
analyzing interview findings, things like those, which is not necessarily that you need AI for that. When we go back to the competitive research, I have done this before AI. I have done this without any help. But it's a lot of work. It's a lot of manual work then, and it's you, as you said, you can't do it as frequently, or maybe you can't go as deep as you would like to,
mm,
because there's a time constraint. And now, yeah, now it's easy, it's accessible, it's super fast, it's very convenient, and as the space is evolving so rapidly, it's a game changer.
mm. And does it also involve utilizing much more different set of tools? Unlike, let's say, you have Miro today, you have ClickUp, and you have a whole range of product management tools. Does it mean that you have to take a step back and analyze, okay, which tools for me help my team understand the users better?
Mm, I guess that depends on the team.
Mm,
For us, as we are just five folks,
mm,
we try to focus as much as possible on what we have,
mm,
and on making the most out of the setup we currently have, and not so much about spending time in different tools, and getting maybe the perfect tool for each job, but more just
mm.
making the best of what we have. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think it makes a lot of sense.
I
And
think that that's a challenge. Just to add to
mhm,
that, I think it might be a challenge for a larger team. It it I guess it looks completely different,
mm. Yeah, true. I think it also depends on what's your team size and your user base as well, the kind of audience that you're addressing your product to.
right?
So yes, definitely. And with respect to, let's say, given the fact that you're building an AI product to a much more
Hmm.
hands-on audience, like software engineers who spend their entire day coding, how important is it that users understand what the system is doing? How, like their IDE for that matter, or any other tools that you provide?
As you said, I think it highly depends on the product and the user, the specific
Mhm.
user group. Not all AI products are the same, and we have um, we have products suggesting you which song you should next listen to, which
Mm.
is very different from getting legal advice or
Mhm.
tax advice, right? I love that we see not over the last months, but over the last years already, I would say, that, for example, the chat interfaces, ChatGPT or Perplexity add, where the information is coming from and which sources, and that ChatGPT can make mistakes and you should double check everything. So I
Mm.
wouldn't be surprised if as these tools evolve, but also we understand much better what's going on behind the scenes and are much more used to using these tools and these
Mm.
solutions. We are getting more comfortable using them, and our interaction patterns and the UX of these changes completely.
Mm. And with respect to, let's say, comparing the so-called non-LLM era to the LLM or the so-called LLM powered era, right? Do you
Mhm.
think AI products need a different kind of UX or user experience compared to normal SaaS products?
In my experience, many aspects are staying the same.
Okay.
When I look at Straion specifically, the
Mm-hmm.
core functionality is automatically passing your company's rules, the right rules for this specific task, to a coding assistant.
Mm.
And the software engineer doesn't need to know the rules or where they are stored, or even if they need these specific rules for this task. It should all be automatically handled by Straion. It all works behind the scenes. And most of the UX concepts, the underlying UX concepts that we apply completely stay the same,
Mm.
as we know from best practices of development tooling in general or CLI,
Mm.
right? CLI tooling. So our approach is that Straion should fit seamlessly into
Mm.
the existing software development lifecycle. And to be completely honest, this brings a new kind of challenge, at least for us as a team.
Mm.
Best case scenario is that the software engineer, the user of Straion, doesn't even know we are there because it's working so well,
Okay.
which brings us then into the dangerous position. If they don't know it, do they still
Mm.
see the value as much as
Sure.
we need them to?
Sure. For instance, you have different buttons in a so-called a non-LLM period,
Hmm.
right? Different buttons, different sort of text boxes, and so on. Whereas with an LLM-powered product, something like a chatbot, wherein
Hmm.
you have more responsibility as the product owner to design the overall set of actions by understanding everything that the user wants in probably one single sentence that the user types, right? So how challenging is it for you from the product side to mentally understand the overall user thinking?
Yeah, it's extremely challenging because you
Mhm.
have so many options, right?
Sure.
And that's also this complete shift in mindset from a deterministic setup,
Mhm.
which I learned at university and we did
Mhm.
for so many years, to a non-deterministic one is insane. So it
Mhm.
just takes some time to get used to that. And then for me personally, it's focusing on the couple of very important problems you want to solve for your user. So we know exactly who are our users and what are the most important things we want to solve for them, and we focus on that. There are millions of options, but this is where we start. Does
Okay.
that make sense?
Sure, fair, fair.
I'm not saying that's the solution, but this is my approach.
And do you think the complexity is only going to increase in the future, given the fact that a lot of people are sort of expecting IDEs or tools that support software engineers to give almost a finished production level product, right? So do you see incorporating complex tooling into your own infrastructure in the long run?
Yeah, definitely. I can just hope that most of it will work behind the scenes anyhow, and we slowly but definitely grow into it, into this new world and into everything that is changing about our day-to-day and our jobs and the whole software development life cycle. But yes, definitely. And we need the change anyhow, so
Sure.
let's stay positive.
Let's stay positive. All right. And from your perspective, are companies really adopting AI deeply, or many are still experimenting on a surface level, at least from a product side?
With the teams I talk to as my day-to-day job as a co-founder, I see both actually. I see on the one hand teams being super far in this journey, being very mature about it already, and not only using it in software development, like not only coding assistance, but also using AI in marketing, in product, in UX, throughout the whole life cycle, setting up agents to do jobs end to end, like bug fixing, for example, and yeah, having all of these steps supported by AI. On the other hand, so there's another end of the spectrum. There are still teams just exploring what AI could do, or maybe not even working with AI at all. Could be due to company policies. And one thing I'd like to add is even within the same company, we see people being or approaching it very differently. So of course, there are people being super eager about it and super positive and happy about it. They're driving the change or the innovation. And then on the other hand, there are folks who are more cautious. They're not yet convinced. They even fear for their jobs.
And then coming to one of my last questions, what advice would you give someone, especially to the product teams, right, that want to use AI seriously, but do not want to fall into the so-called hype that we see on LinkedIn?
I love that. I think it all comes down to solving a real problem. So no matter if you're using AI for your own day to day, or if you want to explore adding it to the product, think about the problem your users are facing, or your week where you're losing time, where is a task you want to automate, and then maybe even involve your colleagues and try to understand how you can best solve for the problem. It doesn't always have to be AI. It's not like everything has to be AI from now on. We have a ton of great technology out there. And yeah, there are different solutions as well.
All right. Thanks a lot, Katrin, for your time. Uh, Really happy that you were able to take some time off for the entire episode. And yeah, thank you once again.